How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the weekly trading review for the week of August 4th. This week, I took 23 trades. I had 20 wins and 3 losses. Total profits of 508.53. On my swing trades, total profits 618.95, 6 wins, 0 losses. On my day trades, if you didn't see the Q3 video, I sized down to 1 share, and I am kind of just going off of instinct here. I'm not really doing anything in terms of, my prior rules. It's just a matter of getting the confidence down over a period of time. So day trades, 17 day trades, 14 wins, 3 losses. In those day trades, I did have a couple of trades where, I scratched it and I took like a penny gain. I had 4 trades like that, if you want to exclude those or count those as scratches. But I'm counting those as wins mentally, just because a cent is a cent. So I took that from Pete. But if I could take out my trade for 1 cent gain, then I'm cool with scratching like that. There were 3 trades that I kind of fat fingered on Friday, which I'll just get into right now. I was trying to do a weekly, considering a weekly at the money at CLS, which I initially put on, and then I actually decided to get out of that trade. And then actually, in terms of getting out of the trade, I actually put on a Google weekly at the money, and then I tried to bid for an Abbott PCS, but I actually put it in for a debit instead of a credit, so to get out of that one. So those fat fingers actually cost me $120, which I was sort of pissed on. But just some lessons learned in terms of trying to get into those trades and get out of those trades. Okay, so pretty nice week overall. I think my second best week to date. It would have been my best week to date had I not fat finger. So let's get into the market. I'm going to go over the swings in a little bit more detail, and I'll talk about my open swing on Bull, as well as a swing I opened on Google on Friday. I'll get into the day trades after that as well. Because I have a lot of day trades, I'm not going to get as into it because the video is going to get pretty long. So I'm just going to focus on the day trade here. Like, here's the setup that I saw. Here's where I entered and why, and then here's what happened after that. So just kind of focusing on the setup, entry, and exit, maybe versus all of the details surrounding that. I know that can be kind of helpful, but if I'm doing 17 day trades, I feel like the video is going to take 2 hours, so I don't want these to run super long. So I'm going to try my best effort to do that. We'll see how it goes. I'm also going to try to keep the swing trades and the SPY analysis a little more focused. So SPY this week, after a gap down last week, has rallied and trying to test this all-time high here, just under 640. I think Alio in the What Options chat mentioned that this is the highest SPY has ever closed at the all-time high. So this prior close is 637.10, 637.18. This move up has been sort of choppy. We're in this bullish channel, and we can see we had this big dip here that got bought up, and we're challenging this resistance right here. There's a green candle, red candle, green candle, red candle, green candle. So it's like we're got this red candle, gap up and go, test the bid, get a nice trend day, gap up, test this again, hold, move up higher. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty, actually, I'm going to delete these drawings here because this is getting in the way. It's pretty kind of a choppy move higher, but there's been a nice bullish trend, and we've been able to take advantage of that. So I'm going to go through my swing trades first in order, and I'm going to get that sorted out right here. Okay, so first swing trade setup is AFRM. And also, by the way, you will notice that I changed the layout of my chart just so that you could see more of the chart. And I thought it'd be more efficient to have the D1M5 loaded up over here, since I could kind of show you both at the same time without having to flip it back and forth. Just makes it a little bit more efficient. Okay, So here is AFRM. Now, market is bullish, and this put in a really nice day on Friday. So this was the setup that I saw. I liked it. I knew that this is a choppy stock, and I felt that, all right, well, the market has had some strong selling pressure. So, it's probably, if there's some more selling pressure, I can probably get in on the AFRM on a dip. So that's where I was bidding at. So if you look at AFRM over here, this is the strong move on last Friday. And then I bid right around here. Actually, don't know. Let me get rid of this price line. That's kind of annoying. I bid right around here, which was the prior day AVWAP. So that's a nice place to bid. You can also bid maybe at the halfway of this candle here. So that would be, let's see, half of this move. That actually ended up holding, so 71.50. So that's a pretty decent point. Halfway's a pretty decent point. I got in maybe at the upper third at the prior day AVWAP. So got in over here at 72.75. I was long 45 shares, which meant $10 of risk to the downside, which would be a break below this pivot low and the 50 SMA, as well as compression low. We also had this high minus trend line break, by the way. So here's the next day. It tested that high minus trend line break. I got it over here. Market was rallying that day. So after it found support, got in here, confirmed some support, and had a nice close near the end of the day. And then on the next day, we had a nice run up to 76.72. And then the market had some selling pressure. And maybe I'm going to put up the M5 chart on the market so we can see that a little more clearly. And I'm going to just make 1OP bigger. I don't think we need to see the D1 right now. Okay. So we are lined up. So SPY is kind of moving up here. So it's hitting some resistance potentially, right? There is this high volume candle on the 7th. So it's hitting some resistance there. And this high is at 76.68. So we came just short of it, hit back below. I took some partial gains here. I think I was out 15 shares at, let me get this up over here. 15 shares at 75. 75.75. So that's a $3 gain on those shares. I exited the other 1/3 at 76.38 as we got this bearish candle over here. And then as we pushed up higher towards the end of the day, I took the remaining third at right over here, 76.80, as it tested this high volume candle high. So nice gain overall. It was a $160 gain on the position. And it was some decent scaling out. I mean, I think I definitely had a chance to scale out a little bit more. There was one kind of last push it made on the next day before it sold off really hard. So you're never going to get the absolute top. I was initially targeting 80 on over here, so it actually got pretty close to 80. But when the market made a gap up on the 7th, right, and this made a gap up, that's probably where I would have taken remaining gains. So overall, really good trade. Again, one pattern that I'm noticing is just I am trying to scale out of my trades, and it has been helping, but I've just been scaling out a little bit too quickly. I think I did a great job on Hood a couple of maybe 1 or 2 weeks back of scaling that out, holding that for another day. But on AFRM, I scaled that slowly throughout the day, but I think it's probably worth scaling out on a more chunkier move, or maybe the next day when it kind of opens higher. Because I'm giving this chance to actually break through some resistance over here. Okay. Next trade that I took was NVIDIA. So I took it on the same day. I took it on Tuesday. So pretty strong stock. You can see that when the market sold off really hard on that day, NVIDIA held up pretty well. I believe there is a... Sorry, yeah, I usually have the I'm putting on the 15 EMAs, so I'm just gonna add that real quick. But basically, Nvidia hit that 15 EMA, and it's been holding that really well as a nice steady trend. So hit that level, and then it filled in the gap pretty quickly on the 4th. So let me just go back over here. Here's it on the 8th. Okay, so obviously, yeah, that's last Friday, and then here's the move in made on the 4th. So thought Nvidia was looking pretty good, and again, same thing with Affirm. I was just bidding better on this, so it closed the day near I think around 180. So I got in at Nvidia 25 shares at 178. So again, right below the prior day, this VWAP from the prior day. Looks like it actually came and tested the 8 EMA, so you can get a really great bid at 176. But, again, I'm not going to get a perfect entry and exit all the time. So started to find some support, and I also put in a small size initially because there's AMD earnings. And I made sure to check the AMD earnings to make sure that they didn't really affect NVIDIA, which they didn't. They had a little bit more effect couple of quarters ago when the market cap for Nvidia was a lot smaller, but Nvidia is such a big market cap now that it's going to be having the pull on the semis and not really the other way around. So this was I think this was earnings on AMD the next day. AMD had actually tanked down a lot lower, and Nvidia was basically flat for that whole time. So I was long 25 shares at 178, and I was looking to add once Nvidia found some relative strength. So I added 5 shares over here at 78.30. So right when Nvidia started to break through the VWAP and started to make a new high, that's when I added to the position. And then the market pulled back later, right? So market's pulling back over here. Nvidia's holding at VWAP, so I added another 5 shares at, I think, 178.60. So I got filled somewhere over here. And then later, I think I closed the day with another 10 shares at 178.50. So I basically had a full position on at 178.21, which was right at this VWAP for the day. So I got a pretty nice fill. Market then had a nice rally the next day. Nvidia still gap down, digesting those SMA gains. And then on the gap up, I just took gains in the entire position on the open. It actually came back and tested this high right here. You see this high of 183.30. So that was actually probably could have been a pretty nice target, 183.30. You see it hit that level right here and then rejected off. But I ended up taking the entire point out at 181.60 because, one, I had some nice gains, and then two, I was also managing like 4 other positions at the close, so it was hard to kind of manage them all. It's easier just to take profits on the close and then move on. So took it out at 181.60 overall, which was about $3 gain, about $3.40 gain on the position, which is pretty nice considering ATR is 440. So took a nice move on that guy. So that was NVIDIA. Next one is TPR. So TPR, I took it on the 5th, I believe. Again, same setup. So you can see there was this high plus trend line coming in the way, but this is a really strong chart. Had earnings on the 14th, but it was a pre-earned bull. If I go to show scanners with TPR, see buy into earn. So that's a nice way to check that if a stock is potential to rally into earn. So took the stock on the 5th again. So it's long 20 shares at 110.50. So let me go through TPR right here. So really similar setup again. You'll see a pretty similar pattern for a lot of these stocks. These are strong stocks on the 4th, right? Nice rally, and then I'm just waiting for them to pull back. So pull back to VWAP, and I got filled at 110.50, which was kind of right here. Stock rallied a little bit, and then when it broke above VWAP over here, pretty early. When it broke above VWAP right there, I added the position. It had some nice relative strength. It was a nice organized grinder higher. And there was some resistance I knew at 112.50, but I felt that it could break it with some market tailwind. So we're just riding this guy. The next day we're poking at it again. Don't quite get through it. And also on the ad, by the way, I added 10 shares at I believe 111.50. So my average price was about 110.81. Yeah. So I added right here 111.50. So I tried to add right at VWAP, which was 110.80. I just didn't get my fill, unfortunately. I bid a little bit too aggressively. So that was TPR. And then when SPY had a gap up over here and TPR did not gap up, I took gains pretty much right on the open here. You can see it hit 112.50. So I took a decent gain here. Took about a $1.80 gain on that. I was targeting like maybe 114, 115, but because it didn't really gap up with the market, it was at resistance. I figured I'd just get out of it. It ended up working out. I think this stock is still valid on the D1, so it's going to probably make another nice run up where I can get out of it. But I am pretty happy that got out of that one. So just go shoot at the trade-off of, okay, well, sometimes if you take it right on the open, you miss some profits. Other times, you actually get out of a trade that goes straight against you. So that was a little bit smaller of a win, $50, because it was maybe like a 3/4 position by the time I took it. I probably should have added to a full one is maybe what I would have done. Like added to a full one and then, just gotten out the whole thing there. So that was TPR. Next one I took was Lemonade. So really strong post-earn breakout through this high minus trend line. I do have to pull up the trading view chart here because that will be helpful. But it's basically right at its IPO AVWAP, which is coming in at around 48.50. So pretty much right here. So that's the one thing I was unsure about. I just didn't know what was going to happen. So I'm going to get rid of this line. Okay. So here is Lemonade, and here's the setup. So this was a really nice setup for an overnight where this stock, massive, strong move on volume overnight, and then compressing at VWAP for the entire day, which is what I like because basically we're just spending – this move took 20 minutes, and then we spend basically, 5 hours just digesting all of those gains, and we see these higher lows coming up. So once I see the third higher low, then that's when I get comfortable that, okay, we got 3 higher lows in. We're right at VWAP. I'm going to get in pretty much here. So I took the 815.44 calls for $4.50, which was perfect, right at my max target. I was planning to hold this overnight, but I took a small gain same day at 5.10 because, again, I was like, I took the trade, and then I looked at the chart, and then I was like, oh, shit, okay, there's the IPOA VWAP right here. I didn't know if it was going to double top here, if it was going to crack through or not. I just didn't have that confidence. So if I pull up this trading view chart here, I know it's kind of small, but this purple line, and I'm going to just clear the chart, make this a little bit easier to see. All right, so this purple line right here is the IPO AVWAP 48.47. So we kind of rejected off that, and I was like, oh shit, we're at a resistance. So when I'm at resistance, I'm just going to take a small gain and get out. In this case, it worked against me, but some cases it may not work against me. The one thing it did have in my favor is that this had a ton of R volume, so there's a good chance that it could actually break through it. And if you look at what happened on, where's the 5th here? If you look what happened on the 5th, right, SPY sold off and then was kind of like soaking up some of this supply, and this stock held up pretty firm. So the fact that it held up really well on a market down day meant that if the market had an up day, we probably had some fuel and the stock R vol to break through the IPO. That's maybe the angle you could have played, but I just wasn't comfortable, so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna just gonna get out. Would have been like a nice, I think, $1.50 gain overnight, at least a 25 to, I think, a 30 to 40% 30 to 50% gain overnight. So I think I made the same mistake with AMD. Whoops. With AMD, yep, over here, I took the same trade, closed it next day, and then it would have been a nice mover higher. But happens. On AMD, I didn't have as much of an excuse. This stock, I think I had a decent justification for doing that. But took a small win on Lemonade, $60 here, added up. Last one that I took on the long side, at least, was PLTR. This was a post-earnings bull. So big gap up August 5th. Let's zoom into this chart, and I'm going to walk through the setup again. So here's the setup August 5th. Oh, I think I went back too far. Yeah, so actually, here's the setup here. So August 6th, sorry. So gap up, kind of compressing here. It did rally up higher, but this wasn't the normal comfortable setup I like. You see how it made a marginal new low and then a higher low. And it was below VWAP for most of the time, so I wasn't as comfortable. We made a strong move, pulled back over here, and then when we start to make a higher low and then higher high right here, I took this long overnight. So I was long 45 shares at 177.48. And it was looking pretty good. So PLTR, again, I was targeting this prior day high at like maybe around 180. There could be some resistance at the nice round number. Stock had a really strong rally into the close, so I took half off on the close at 179.50 for a $2 gain, and then I took the remaining half on the open at 181.06. So overall, pretty nice gain. That was a pretty nice trade, just nice gap up overnight. Obviously, the stock continued up higher and more, but it's not really my setup to hold it much past that, I would say. It's also made a pretty nice move. It's made a not crazy extent. I mean, it is kind of overextended for 8 EMA, but the move it's made has not been crazy parabolic. So I think there'd be some more opportunities for overnights. But yeah, I mean, for these overnights, it's like, all right, I'm just looking for a pullback, and then I'm taking gains on that next leg. So next one over here is Snow. Snow I took last Friday on the 1st, and I got in at 205. Now, normally I try to get a better bid here, but on the price action on SPY last Friday, it was at support. I didn't know if, one, we would get a big leg drop the next day. I felt like there was a pretty decent chance that could happen, maybe like a 30-40% chance. So that's why I entered half size on Snow, 20 shares at 205.04, just kind of around the close of the day. Snow, while the market rallied here, Snow kind of compressed, holding below that AVWAP, the AVWAP E and the 50 SMA. We got the gap up on the 7th, and it sold off pretty hard on the 7th. So I'm going to zoom in on the M5. I'm just going to show you the, so I basically got into the close over here on the 1st. Rallied up over here, and I'm just waiting for the market to show some signs of weakness and Snow to confirm some resistance. So when Snow broke through, hit the 50 SMA, it sold off super hard, and then it poked through this low of the day. I thought that, all right, we're looking good. So I actually added basically 10 shares of Snow at 201 when it broke through this prior day low over here. Obviously, in hindsight, I mean, not a terrible ad, but usually it's like, again, if I'm on my overnights, I'm looking for a strong move and a pullback to VWAP. So I think I get why I did it, but I don't know. It's probably better for me to actually add on a pullback. I'm just more comfortable with that. So added at over here, and then I set an order out at like 198 or something like that. But instead of putting in a buy to cover order, I actually sold an extra 20 shares at 201.07. So now I'm at a 1.5x position with my average size at 203.12. So I was like, oh shit, okay, I don't want to do that. So I scratched out of my ad here for a 1 cent gain at 203.11 because I was like, that wasn't my intention. Snow pulled back the rest of the day, and then I took partial gains as it approached the low of the day at 201.50. I tested this low in the day on this high volume bull hammer, and I took the remaining gains at 201.48. So obviously you can see that this stock had broken through. this low, and it continued to sink in and actually test the gap. So I was not expecting this massive move to the gap. Not in my game plan. My thinking on the exit was, all right, well, Snow is at support. Market has been rallying, and it's strong. So, not a bad time to get out of a short, take some nice gains, and, see some picks on the long side. That was my thinking. Obviously, that didn't happen. So, 2 improvements I would have made on Snow. Overall, I think it took like $60 on this. So, I mean, profit is a profit. So, I think I had a great hold. I had a good pick. I was fine for my initial entry. Here's my 2 improvements. First one, we broke the low of the day. Add on a pullback. At least add on a retest of this, right? If I added at like 203.50 and we started to dip lower here, okay, yeah, I'm good with getting in on that add. Add a little bit here. Add a little bit at VWAP. Second thing is take the partial gains here, and again, just wait a little bit longer. Maybe wait until at least the end of the day, and then I would have taken the remaining gains at the gap fill at 192. Both of those 2 things, I would have turned like a $60 trade to like a $500 trade in this scenario. So again, that's not going to always be true, but that's an improvement on Snow. Okay, I'm currently long bull as a swing. Let's pull up this chart. Okay, so here's bull. I have a fig leaf or a poor man's covered call on bull, so I am long the January 16th. Where is this? I can't even find this guy. Here we go. All right, January 16th, 2026, $10 calls for $6.67, which had about 70 cents of premium in it. And I'm just selling calls every week. So first week, 725. I sold some calls, 8-1. Sold some calls, so I took some decent gains that week. So this week, when it opened, right, it was on August 4th. So I'd sold on the 5th. I sold the $17 calls for 11 cents. I sold at $17 because I got in around $16. So that way, if it's somehow some crazy move happened and it hit $17 and it was called away, I would still take profit on the overall position. So I didn't want to sell it below my cost level until I've reduced my cost basis enough, because this is a newsy stock. So if there's some news that pops up here, I can't risk it. So it's really harder to sell these covered calls when it dips lower. You have to sell it when we get a nice pop up higher, and then you can take a nice covered call. So I sold that, and then I scratched it out on the 5th right here. When this started to rally above the 8 EMA, I figured, all right, there's actually a decent chance it could get to 17 this week. I wasn't sure, but that's what I thought. It did not, right? I was looking at, all right, well, I mean, it made this move where it went from $12 to $17 in 3 days, right? I don't know if it's going to make that move. So scratched out of that. And then I think I took another cover call, but I scratched out of that. So then on the 7th here, I sold the 815, I sold the October 15th, $18 and 1850 calls for a 27-cent credit, which put me somewhere right here. So we're basically saying, okay, it's going to make a new high. It's not going to make a new high in the next week. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, I mean, this is just not market agnostic. It's super long, so I'm never really worried about this trade. I'm just watching this. And I think by the end of this week, I should have covered the cost of my premium. So that way, that time decay on the calls ends up washing out, and I pretty much just get all the intrinsic in my favor. So that's the update for bull. Not much going on, but pretty nice fig leaf overall to manage. Okay, I'm going to go over the fat finger ones real quick. So I was potentially looking at weekly at the monies because there's a lot of earnings that reported. Market bias, I'm neutral to mildly bullish in the shorter term. So I was looking at CLS, and this is a pretty nice setup here. We got a nice gap up on earnings, strong move, and we're kind of in this bullish channel so far, gradual bullish channel. We have weekly options. The OL isn't fantastic. It's 0, but it's still not bad. So I originally took this weekly at the money, the 926 185 puts for 796, and then it took the next week's 207.50 puts for 575 for an overall debit of 250. Now it's the debit is pretty low on paper is what I liked, but the reason I got out of the trade is because the width between my long put, my out of the money long put at 185 and my short put at 207.50 was really high. So when we're playing at all the scenarios, the best case scenario is that CLS chops around but closes on Friday above 207.50, right? If that happens, then you get you can basically close out your short put for 90-95% profits, and then you can get in, sell another short put. The problem is, now, the other scenario here is if it gets parabolic, then you take small profits overall because the short puts go away, but they basically take a whole bunch of value. The long puts lose a bunch of value, but the short puts get a whole bunch of value. You basically get like a 5-10% profit or something. The very bearish scenario is that this stock breaks below 185. In that case, you can close the short puts and you can ride the long puts out and have room until 175 for a profit. The scenario that I didn't quite account for when I took the trade was that the width between that is my assignment risk, right? So if it's Thursday and it's like 199 or something, or if I get assigned early, then I'm short, what's it called? Or no, I think I am long 100 shares of CLS at 207, right? Because I have those short puts, right? So I'm long at 207, but if I want to exercise my 185 puts, right, that means I'm buying a stock at 207.50 and I'm selling it at 185. So that is a $22 loss per stock times 100, which is a $22,50,000, or that's $2,250, right? Way above my max risk. So I was like, all right, well, I can't really justify that. So I was looking at maybe taking this shorter here, something like a 195, 200 potentially, or maybe even the 200, 205 could work. But I like this AVWAP-Q line, seeing if I can short at that. So 200 is a pretty nice line there. So yeah, but it didn't quite work out because you want to be able to get it in like 2 or 3 weeks basically, to get enough premium. So ended up basically getting out of that trade, but that trade cost me $60. I also did a fat finger on Google because I initially put the new CLS trade, it was like the 200, 205 week like the money on Google because Google had pretty much the exact same price point. So got into that, got out for a $5 loss on Google, which I guess wasn't as bad, but I still felt dumb about it. And then my other dumb mistake was I was looking at put credit spreads, and I saw that Abbott was really strong today, and it had broken above both its SMAs on. Volume is decent, but this is some pretty orderly price action. There's a decent flight to safety going on right here, and it's back in this range. So I was like, all right. I like the 130, 129 PCS. IV isn't super high, but I sold it. I put an order out thinking it would be for like a 25-cent credit, and then I got filled at a 14-cent debit because I put it for a net debit instead of a net credit. So I was beat a dumb. It happened, but I closed that one out for a $60 loss. So all of those added up, unfortunately, but happens. So those are the swings, and let's get into the day trades for the week. Okay, so we're going to start with Monday. Okay, so SPY, gap, and go day higher. First trade I took was DLR. So DLR on the 4th, it was breaking out of compression at this high. So I actually took it really early. I took it after this open candle. We broke this compression on a nice high volume candle. I got in at 116. And this is a really early day trade. I usually don't take this, but we had a potential gap and go day higher. So I was like, all right, well, it breaks out of compression. Either this kind of like fails, or this stock just like rallies, right? And it rallies like $2 or $3. So that's kind of what I was playing. Market rally, then it kind of stalled out the rest of the day. DLTR was holding up, and then it kind of tested the low right here, and then it tested this low again. And when it started to break through this low later in the day is when I took a loss at $1.31. So, yeah, I mean, didn't work out, but this is a pretty nice setup, and this is the only time that I will take an early break, because we're basically breaking out of this pretty tight compression over here. So I felt that, and you see that the move actually produced over here on the 6th. So this was a failed breakout, another failed breakout, and then we got the follow through on that day, and you had a nice $1.50 in there. So that was DLTR. Didn't work out. Next one, Carvana. I took a short also on the 4th. Now Carvana gapped up on earnings, was selling off, and it kind of cut through this prior high level. So I was taking a short kind of right over here. And this is, where was it? Here it was. Yes. So I took a short. Market was rallying right here. Carvana was basically sold off over here, broke through the higher day low, right? And it poked through and kind of got it over here. So I shorted at $3.59. And I was just targeting like $4. So I got out at $3.55. And you can see that the low of the day, or where the 8 EMA was at 354.61. So I was like, all right, I'll just take gains at the 8 EMA and get out of the trade, which was good because it ended up bouncing up for the rest of the day before pushing lower for on the daily chart. But that was a quick little trade in and out. So it took $4 on Carvana. Next trade I took that day was Adobe. Adobe, really nice selling pressure here. There was some major support, obviously, at this level, so I have an alert set on there. But really strong D1 chart. And let's just zoom back in over here. Yeah, so basically really bearish M5 chart. Gap up, immediately filled in the gap, and then it started to break through this gap early on the 4th. So once it started to break through that gap, I got in at 347, and I was just looking for maybe like $2 or something. So I'm gonna zoom back in time because this is what I saw, right? $2, and then when this move started to get kind of overextended here at I got in at 364, 364.74. So not at 347, my bad. So was not much of a better bid, but we got a clean break of the low of the day on volume as soon as SPY started to stall here at around 1050. This stock then started to drop. And then I took gains at 1120 at 344.74, which was pretty much right into this candle. And I was like, all right, I mean, this kind of overextended. It's probably going to pull back here. So pull back, and then the absolute bottom fell out of the stock. Ended up having another $4 in that trade. But again, I wasn't really planning on the bottom to fall out. And then, started to compress over here, and that's when you can probably decide to get out of the trade. That's a real overextension. Yeah, crazy. So that was Adobe, and then I was in on Spot that day. Spot, where was this? So I'd made earnings. Here we go. Yes, on the 4th, it had broken into the gap, and it was trying to get into through some of this resistance here. So Spot, let's go back in time. Yes. All right. So Spot, gap up, hold the gains, and then when it started to break out over here is when I got in on Spot at 669.71. I didn't get I didn't get at the right high, which was good. I was trying to bid at VWAP, but I just kind of fat fingered a dumb fill. So I meant to get somewhere like 668, 80 or 70, something like that, or 668.50 would have been ideal. And then the stock was compressing for a while and not really breaking through. So I was like, all right, I mean, if it's not really moving, I'm just going to scratch out of the trade and, just kind of see what happens. So I scratched out of the trade at so I got in at 669.71. I scratched out of the trade at 669.72. You can see I'm pretty much right in the middle of this range, which was nice. So I had a lot of chances to scratch out of the trade versus getting out of it. But yeah, couldn't quite get through this high volume candle at 671. And it looks like it hit some support there. Maybe it was that 15 EMA. I mean, I'm just using the daily. I actually don't prioritize it too much intraday, but we'll see here. Yeah, so scratched out of that for a 2-cent gain or a tiny win. So got out of some danger on that one. And I was long Meta over here at on the 4th as well. So I took Meta later in the day. Yep, so I took Meta. Yeah, it broke through the high of the day right here. So it closed at 775.70. I bid for a pullback at 775. So I got my pullback. Stock was pulling back over here. Tested this breakout level and made a higher low, and then it rallied up over here, and I took gains at 776. I took $1 over there. So pretty nice win to start the week. Took 5 trades. We can notice already there's more trades going on, and there's like more kind of advanced trades or maybe non-typical trades. But again, I'm just going off instinct and kind of what looks good. So this was pretty validating for me, where it's like, okay, look, I got some entries. They're not always perfect. I try to get good entries, but sometimes they'll go against you. Sometimes they'll continue in your favor. So kind of lifting off the feeling of having to get it absolutely perfect really helped me, because I know I'm getting good entries, but then you can't control exactly how the stock is going to react after that. You're just kind of watching and reacting to what it does. And trading one share, I was kind of like able to stick with it. I was able to observe moves, watch them more technically, so really gave a good bump to my confidence, and I think that bump to my confidence also translated into my swing trading. Okay. So next day on August 5th, I took Oklo long. It had broken out. Where is it? You're right here. So broken out of this compression, broken out of this high, plus trend line over here. Let's zoom to August 5th in the market. That was a down day. So there's some opportunities to get long and short. Oklo, nuclear stock, pretty strong. So it's not really going to... It's going to be a little bit more market agnostic. So broke out over here at 11:30. So this is a nice little VWAP entry. I didn't bid over here. I bid at VWAP because at 11, I was like, all right, look, this is a strong move. So I'm just going to bid lower, and, it's probably going to hold. I'll bid at VWAP and see what I get. So bid at VWAP. So I got in on Oklo at 82.10, which is right at VWAP. Stock pulled back, made a higher low, and then rallied up, and I took gains at 84.10. So I took $2 near the high of the day because I was like, all right, it's a bearish trend day. Market had a nice pop at 12:30 that I took gains on. It ended up working out for a nice $2 gain. The other trade I took that day was SYM. SYM, pretty big pop here out of compression, continuing that move on the 5th. Also had earnings coming up, so I had to be careful. You can see a really similar setup to Oklo, but actually a little bit stronger. I didn't quite dip below VWAP, so we got this strong move over here. I didn't want to chase this candle at 11, so I bid a little bit lower on SIM. I got in at 62.83, so I got in right here. Versus this close at 63.815. So save myself a couple of cents. Stock pushed up a little bit higher over here at 12:30, but didn't quite pop the market. Also, this was some tiny bodied candles here. Told me that the move was getting close to finishing. So I ended up taking some gains at 62.90. I also sort of fat fingered this. I meant to get out at like 62.99 or something like that. So again, I lost a couple of cents to some fat fingers. But yeah, that ended up being like a tiny gain slash scratch. I took 7 cents on that. So it was a nice move. I think maybe also bidding this at the halfway point would have been a little bit better, or kind of getting at VWAP. I could have gotten closer to 62, and then could have got out around 63. So there's maybe $1 in there. You also have this entry right here, potentially at 1055. It's a little aggressive for me, because we didn't, because we get a dip like this could easily get smacked down here. So that's why I didn't want to take this entry. Rather get in nice double bottom. Here's a nice place to get in. Probably like 62.70. So maybe could have added to that. All right. Third trade for that day was C. So I think Pete took this as a short. I think he's still in this as a swing short, but I am not. So C, nice pop up over here. Big strong move on volume. I was a little bit hesitant because I was like, okay, well, this move here, long, bullish candle here, and then it was rallying the whole day. So I was like, I feel like it's probably going to double bottom here. Not crazy about it, but we get another nice flush down here, and then we see some 3 stack green candles. So I was also kind of cautious about this, but then when it started to roll over here, I was like, all right, I mean, we're probably at least going to test the low of the day here, right? But so I got in at 90.29. We start to poke lower, and then we make this high volume bullish hammer. And at this point, I'm thinking, all right, well, I could scratch out right now, but I'm going to give it some time. So I gave it some time, hit VWAP. I'm like, all right, hit VWAP. I might have a chance to add and scratch out of the trade here. Broke through, didn't quite look back. So I got out of the trade at 91.16 for an 89-cent loss. Yeah, just went against me, and then actually ended up making a pretty good decision because stock has ended up rallying and has not really come back to that price yet. So I'm fine with not holding on to C. And just getting out of that trade. So that was a loss, but still up for that day on the 5th. Next one on Wednesday, took just 2 trades on Wednesday. So I took PLTR and I took Reddit. So Wednesday, we actually kind of had a weird day where this was kind of the meat of the move, and then we just compressed for the rest of the day. So PLTR, I took it over here. Stock had a nice move and then was pulling back, holding the gains above VWAP. So I got in at 177.75. Stock pulled back over here, testing this prior high. So if you look at this breakout close right here and this high, it tested this level. Or sorry, this was, the 6th, yeah. So pull back and tested this level right here, and then it actually started to rally. So here's that test of that level. So had one share here. I was waiting to add, but I actually ended up taking a 1 cent gain on this guy right here, because I was like, oh, okay, I think like it's kind of in my favor now. I don't want to let it go against my favor, and I didn't know what was going to happen at the end of the day. Obviously, it made a really nice move at the end of the day, but yeah, I was not foreseeing that. So, yeah, took a tiny 1 cent win on PLTR. I guess it probably could have held that a little bit longer. Yeah, but is what it is. I think I just had good trade management, and I was ready to get out of the trade if it didn't work. Other trade I took that day was Reddit. Reddit, pretty strong post earn, and on the 6th, you can see that it was steadily grinding higher, and it had these dips below the 8 EMA, rallied up, dip, rallied up, dip, rallied up. So I bid over here at 210.62, and then I was just bidding for a $1 gain. So 210.62, pulled back a little bit, and then I got filled over here at 211.62 for a nice little dollar. So that was kind of more of a scalp. Maybe another opportunity here, but it made a lower low, so I didn't feel comfortable about that. We had a breakout over here, but it's a choppy stock, and either breakouts are getting at retrace, so I didn't quite see an entry for the rest of the day, but I think it had probably entry here, entry here, entry here, and entry here to get in on those trades. Okay, so that was Reddit, and then let's go to the 7th. 7th, I took 3 trades. The first was on. I sent an alert on that the night before. Market gap up and then started to poke into the gap on, had some nice strong selling on some volume. So I took it at 46.25, or sorry, 46.20. I took the trade as it broke through the high of the day and it started to close over here. And it had this poke through, but it didn't close below that poke through. So I was like, eh. And then we started to get through that poke through. So that's when I got in on the trade over here at 9.55. And I needed to see the market hold its high of the day. So we had a nice move lower, and then we had a bullish engulf. It didn't quite get out, so I got out at 45.80 for a 40-cent gain. It did end up continuing, and then I took it on 11.30 again at 45.53. Produced over here, and then we got this kind of bullish engulf on some volume, which I didn't love. So I ended up taking some gains over here at 45.33, so that was another 20 cents in the position. And then I was looking for another short that day because we had a bearish trend day, and I took DT. DT had made a massive move, so I wasn't sure if it was going to move up higher or lower. But DT, basically massive move lower, was compressing. And then I took it on this poke over here. I didn't quite get the poke, but I got it on this over here at 46.62. And I thought it was ready to close, and then it I got in the last 30 seconds, and in the last 15 seconds, it moved back up. So pull back to the 8 EMA, it made a move lower, and I was like, all right, this is good. It's working in my favor. And then it went up over here, and then it kind of went against me. So I was like, all right, well, it hasn't really gone anywhere. I think the stock is probably dead if it wasn't able to push through on that last move. This is like one last hurrah. So I got out at 46.61 for a scratch. And yeah, that was DT. So also took some nice wins that day. I mean, it's interesting too because it's like probably if I size up, I maybe take a couple more, like maybe 2 shares or something on something like on. So it's like a little bit more balanced because it's not going to make that much of a move. Okay. One over here is EXPE. I saw this really early in the day on the 8th. So I took this at 9.50. And so I took it over here, and I was like, all right, look, it has a little bit of room to this 8 EMA, so I can probably take like a quick buck or something in here. So I got in at 194.60. That's when I got in. I was targeting 194.30. Just missed this. Got 193.63. And then I was like, oh, snap. It's actually hitting this high right over here at 193.79. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm right on resistance, so I am going to scratch out of the trade. So I scratched out of the trade at 194.59. And I was like, set some alert if it actually started to push lower, which I think it did. Looks like it did kind of over here. There was maybe a move that I could capture. But yeah, I mean, I don't use, there's this nice bearish reversal, but I find these so much harder to trade than bullish reversals because there's just so much buying pressure usually on the gap up. And it's usually always testing some support level. And it's just like, it's just kind of hard to trade. So scratched out of that guy. I then took CMG as a short. Again, nice. It was breaking out of compression on the D1, so really nice compression break over here. So was holding up, and then it started to break through the low of the day right here on 11 o'clock. I got in at 42.20, 2 shares. Started to move lower. Then we got a little green candle here, and I was like, all right, nice. Green candle. I am going to add 1 share at 42.10. So I added 1 share at 42.10 versus the low at 42.04. Pull back to VWAP, started to break down over here. I added another share at 42.20. I guess I'll line this up so it's nice. Yeah. Okay. Another share at 42.20, and then I took gains on this long candle here at 42.10 because I was just targeting like a higher low of the day, basically. Since the market was sort of bullish and it was just kind of knocking up higher. So I didn't know if CMG would continue to go lower. Obviously, it leaked a lot lower. So Yeah, I probably could have held this a little bit longer. I think the main way is looks like I thought it would kind of just drop lower, but looks like it's kind of in this bearish channel the whole time, right? Because the market has had a nice grind higher, so it's going to pull back, move lower, pull back, move lower, pull back, move lower, and then it kind of fizzles out. So at the end of the day, the last hour or 30 minutes or so, you can take some gains on the position. But definitely a nice one to ride, and you could actually add on this pretty nicely. There's a nice point to add over here at the 8 EMA, and also add over here. So there's two nice points to add into the trade once you get there, and you can take some nice gains later in the day. Okay. I took D-Dog as a short, which was quite the ride. So had a nice strong move at let's see, 1140. Market at 1140. Market was market had broken through VWAP here, so I was looking to see if it would continue lower. Market rallied up. This stock was holding up pretty well, and then it rallied to VWAP. So I was short at 129.60, so not quite the low of the day, but just above the low of the day. 129.60, and I was expecting to take a quick move, like $1 or so, on the stock. Pulled back against me to VWAP, so I held it all the way. It went like almost $4 against me, and then it broke through this upward sloping trend line and rejected VWAP on some nice volume here at 215. So I added to the trade. And when did I add to the trade? I added at 132.25. So my average was now 130.93, and so that meant my scratch is somewhere over here, and I could take some profits later in the day. So I was riding this momentum down, and then since this was a taller move down, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna expect maybe a higher low double bottom. So I saw it over here, and then when it started to stall over here at 240, 245, I was like, all right, look, I got some good gains for the day, so I got out at 130.22. So that was a 71 cent gain on 2x size, so $1.40 gain. So I was pretty happy with how I managed that, because I was like, I'm just gonna let this ride to VWAP, and then if it goes against me, I'll get out of the trades. So yeah, I mean, that was D-Dog. Kind of Houdini'd that one, I would say. But it was interesting because I sort of enjoyed the challenge of like, all right, let's see what this stock can do. Let's see if it really goes against me or not. Last trade I took over here, Dell posted this in the one option chat. I got in at 138.50, with a little bit against me, and then it pulled back deeper through VWAP. Now I gotta actually see where it pulled back, and I wonder if let's see if I messed up this trade in real time here. No, there's the prior high. 130.16. Yeah, I didn't actually even get to that prior high. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it just held this candle here. The open of this candle looks like it held that. Interesting. Well, anyways, went against me, tested VWAP, which I didn't like. Well, I was okay with, but I'd rather it obviously go in my favor. Started to go against me. We got the test of VWAP, and then we pushed down lower here at 125. So this is where I started to get out of the trade, and I got out. So I got in at 138.50, and I got out at 136.86 for a $1.64 loss. Yeah, I mean, it just didn't go in my favor. It also had broken. There was a high plus trend line that was kind of like hitting up against. So I was like, all right, well, it broken through it. So I was like, all right, it kind of tested and broken through it. So maybe it has a good chance of continuing. If I looked at also what it did at 11.55, right? You can see market pulling back and then rallied and then rallied up, right? So market pulling back, stock compressing, beautiful. Stock rallied up, market moving up higher. And then market compressing, stock kind of lost its luster over here. And at that point, I was like, well, higher, kind of marginal new high. We could see some selling over here. And Market was rallying up higher over here. Stock, yeah, not really able to. It's kind of getting late off the deck. And then it pretty much closed kind of right at VWAP. Actually, not a terrible setup for an overnight long, but since it's right at support, I just don't know what's going to happen here. So took the loss on that. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a good setup. I really liked the trade. It felt like it was a no-brainer to take. And maybe there was a better entry potentially at VWAP, but it's kind of hard to say because like when this starts to break through here, like usually you get a VWAP, a VWAP retest, right? And I felt like this was the retest and the confirm below. So when I saw that, and I'm like, all right, I mean, we're clearly below this compression high, which is not great. It's not even a poke too. Like if it was a poke here and then we rallied up, I could at least get out for maybe a double top. But when we start to get through here, right, we're starting to get through some of these candles. Wasn't crazy about it. So those were all the trades that I took this week. Obviously, I think I covered this in about an hour. So I went a little bit faster in the day trades. You'll see all of them with their detail on the on my weekly trade log Google Doc. But yeah, I mean, a couple of takeaways this week. First of all, I think my swing trades have been remaining solid. I wouldn't really change much about them, except maybe some slight improvements on the management and on scaling out. I think I could do better on. But other than that, I'm really happy with how they've been going for pretty much the last quarter and now quarter and a half, I would say. I'm also now, I think, 5 straight profitable weeks after skipping the first week of July. So, and out of the last 18 weeks, I've skipped 1 week, so 17 weeks, and I've had 2 red weeks and 15 green weeks. So, I'm really liking that consistency so far. And on the day trades, I think that's been a really big kind of really good move, I'd say, because I am, like I mentioned earlier, I think getting a lot more confidence and sort of willing to just let trades breathe a little bit more. When I kind of right before I sized down, I just noticed how unwilling I was to let the trade move against me. I was really trading quite scared. I felt I wasn't really trading it on a technical basis, so I'm going to try to just keep improving that technically. Keep looking to add to trades, and keep my size small, because what I saw this week is like I made $8.40. $8.58 on my day trades, right? I mean, even if I take, let's say and this is just all one share, right? So even if I just do all of that by 30 shares, right? So 30 shares, right? So if I take $1 loss, that's a $30, that's a 0.1% gain on the account. I mean, that's like a 240, that's almost a 1% gain, right? That's like a 0.8% gain on the account. So I really don't even need to have that much size on these day trades, which is kind of what I noticed. Now, is it going to be this amount of money every week? Who's to say? I'm just basing this off the first week. But I think my plan right now is, again, just focus on one share, looking to just add to winners, manage positions, take trades. I'm just trusting my instincts. And I'm 1 week down in here. So I just got to do that for another 3 months, another 11 weeks to go on the day trading stats. So I'm going to keep a tally on that as well. I'm also going to try to take it week by week, just try to hit my metrics each week and continue it from there. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope this was helpful, and I will see you all in the video next week.